But going forward to the NBA, and it's a hot topic right now, you got a lot of teams right now with their big threes coming back. The Celtics' big three getting to play with each other for the first time tonight. Tatum, Brown, and Kemba Walker. And obviously you got the Nets' big three really making a splash together when they got on the court for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the Nets, so far so good with them. They don't know how to play. They don't play good defense, which I think we kind of all expected. They're probably going to try to acquire a big man who can play defense for them. I think JaVale McGee was one of the guys that they were possibly looking at as a rim protector to get in there, to be a tandem with DeAndre Jordan, who looks like he's starting to show how long he's been in the NBA for a little bit. But it's their big three is unbelievable. They have the best big three in the NBA, I think, without question. You've got Milwaukee, who actually has a pretty solid big three themselves. You got Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. Not quite the level of Brooklyn, but you probably have one of the best players in the NBA, and then two good guys that really complement him well with the way they can shoot and the way they can play off the ball and the way that they can fill roles on defense as well. And you have the Celtics big three, a smaller big three because you've got Kemba in there, and you've got Tatum and Brown, but definitely a big three. They're playing together for the first time this season tonight against the Spurs, so it'll be interesting to see how well they play together after being away from playing all together since the bubble. So that'll be fun to watch for the Celtics. But then there's also, some teams are going to try to find a big three, and I think one of the biggest players that could be the next one on the move could be Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is an unbelievable player. I think he doesn't get the attention that a lot of the players get because he plays for the Wizards, because he's not brash, he's not loud. He played against the Celtics the last game that Jason Tatum played before coming back from COVID, and he was unbelievable. I think he scored close to 40 points in that game, couldn't miss. Just the way that he takes over a game. He's also an unbelievable shooter, so that if you pair him with, a few other players who aren't necessarily perimeter shooters, specifically, he can still work well for that team. So you might see somebody like the Philadelphia 76ers try to go get Bradley Beal because he would work well with them, or maybe some other teams that are looking to add another piece to make a championship run. It's going to be very interesting to see if anybody goes after him.
Yeah, I think he's a great player. I mean, I would want him on my team, definitely. I mean, he can score it and light it up in just a second. Just get him the ball. And I think it's a bigger story is it seems like nobody wants to play with Russell Westbrook. Like, once you get on that team and you start playing with Westbrook, it's like, yeah, I want out of here. This guy is, I don't know. He's just bad for locker rooms. I know he's a ball hog. Obviously a great player himself and can score it and can light it up. But he's one of those guys, has to have the ball in his hands, has to always be making the play. He's the one that runs it. I'm sure he tries to run the locker room. So I think that's where you've seen over this past couple weeks where the rumor has it that Bradley Beal might want out and might want on the move. And I think, like you said, I think he's been underappreciated in the NBA and over the years. This is a great player, an all-star caliber player that, potentially if you put him on a different roster with a couple of different players, he could really shine and show you the type of player that he is. But I think the NBA is just proving more and more that you need a big three now. You need a big three to be able to go for a title. I think that's what most teams are trying to do. They're trying to build what their big three is going to be. Like that Philadelphia team, like you said, they currently have a big two, if you want to call it, with Embiid and Simmons. I'm not a big Simmons fan. The guy can't shoot the ball. He's an NBA player. Come on. Right. Like, get in the gym, start to work on your game, and then you can really be a force. Embiid, that guy can do everything. He is one of those big men that I'm sure everybody would want on their team. But yeah, you have to have a big three now. I'm hoping the Celtics team can start to gain a little bit more, obviously, gel of playing together now that they're going to be on the court for the first time together and start to just kind of mesh their play, because I think that's huge, obviously, in professional sports, but in team sports in general. And so having them all on the floor now and being able to play more minutes together, I think will be huge going forward. I think Brad Stevens will have this team in a great position. And I think here's the thing where we are better than the Nets at right now is we have a far better bench. Our bench is far better. Our depth is far better. So I think we're going to meet that team in the playoffs. That would be my prediction. And what are the Nets going to do to kind of fill their holes that they have in the meantime through this season. I know it's a little shorter than normal, but it's still a long season. So what are they going to do to kind of fill in along their big three? But yeah, I think the NBA is exciting as always. I think it's still trying to get into a flow. I've said that earlier on this show and in the past that I think you still won't see the best of the NBA until the second half of the season. Let these guys kind of get into a flow and kind of mesh together. And I know a little side topic that I've kind of been seeing over the week is, what's more impressive is it Brady going to 10 Super Bowls or was it LeBron going to 10 NBA championships? And I honestly have to say it's Brady going to 10 Super Bowls with the 11-man game of football. Football is a lot harder, obviously. And I'm not saying it's a lot harder of a sport. It's just a lot harder to reach that many championships. I think LeBron's had an easier way of getting there. And don't take my words twisted that I shouldn't say easy, but I think it's just an easier path to get to 10 championships in the NBA, especially when you can play with guys like Kyrie and a big three that you can have around you. Obviously, playing with Anthony Davis is nice as well. So I guess that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I think it's just so much more difficult in the NFL to have sustained success because free agency can kill you in the NFL. You see it all the time. We've seen it as Patriot fans all the time because guys that are really solid players, maybe not superstars, but solid players, after a team wins the Super Bowl, those guys get paid. You look at a guy like Trey Flowers, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, just for recency, those guys are really good players for the Patriots. They're not superstars, but they're really good players, and they got paid. When you win the Super Bowl, you get paid. And we see it with other teams, too. That's one thing we were talking about Mahomes before. The only thing that might hurt him other than injury could be that if he loses any of his top guys in Kelsey and Tyreek Hill to free agency, because those guys are going to get paid after winning a couple of Super Bowls. So I think you're right. I think it is harder to sustain success because in the NBA, you got, as we talk about, the big three. You got three guys. It's easy to interchange the role players after every couple of years with free agency if you can keep guys together. So I think you're right with that. The NBA being slightly easier to get to 10 championships rather than the NFL. So very interesting.